The issues of climate mitigation and adaptation have become center stage in the recently concluded COP27. Questions surrounding priority countries to accelerate decarbonization, as well as the need for developing countries to thrive above the damages of extreme weather patterns and disasters, have dominated the meeting rooms. We carry on these discussions, but this time we bring the issues closer to home, into the Philippine context. We have invited leaders from various industries locally to give us their views on these critical issues, here in a plenary fireside chat. So let me turn over to you, to our moderators. Please welcome ABS-CBN journalist and anchor, Ms. Tina Marasigan, and host of 1PH TV show Tech Kamuna, and former PLDT Head of Public Affairs, Mr. Mon Isberto.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, Mon.
Good morning,
So we'll
good morning.
take the center stage. Indeed, a very productive morning for everyone. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. And we have a very special mission today.
Yep, medyo mabigat nga and well, it's almost like an oxymoron to say I'm happy to see you. Because how can you be happy when you're told that we're the #1 risk country in the world in climate change? But at the same time, I'm happy to see all the people in this room, because here in this room are people who can make a difference in this matter. Right?
Indeed, it takes multitude of minds to work together to make this mission happen.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go. Okay. So why don't we start the ball rolling? Okay.
So we expect this plenary fireside chat to be very enlightening as we get to know our panel's journeys and experiences that shape their responses to climate change. We will be learning from them.
Okay, but before we proceed to the panel, I'm sorry to tell you guys that they're not the only ones who are going to be joining this. You got to join this thing. And we're going to give you the way to join this discussion. Of course, we're very techy. Tech lolo nga ako. So if you've got any questions, no, there's a way that we can do it. Let's show them.
Yes, so we have our QR code here. So we will move opposite the stage so our friends can scan the QR code. So once you're on the page, just key in the access code in the box provided and follow the prompts you see on your phones. You'll be able to submit your questions there, and we will be fielding your questions and flash them on the screen as we move the discussion along. So you will also participate in this fireside chat.
Yeah, and in the spirit of what was discussed earlier, we will be measuring this. Okay? Let's see. Now, let's not keep waiting anymore. Let's start introducing our panelists. Tina?
All right, sir. So first, go ahead, Mon.
Oh, this is mine. Okay, first, he is the CEO of NEO, the largest top green developer and manager of office buildings in the Bonifacio Global City. He has led the company to become the first portfolio in the world to receive EDGE Zero Carbon certification by the International Finance Corporation, also the first in Southeast Asia to achieve the WELL Health Safety Seal. Let's all welcome Mr. Raymond Rufino.
Hi, Sir Raymond. Our next panelist currently serves as the Vice President of Commercial Strategy and Sales for Aboitiz Renewables Incorporated. His primary focus revolves around developing the group's commercial strategy and ensuring the sales team's success in securing off-take agreements for the group's assets. Let's all welcome Mr. David Michael Aboitiz.
Next. Our next panelist is the Executive Vice President and Corporate General Manager and the Group Business Unit Head of Century Pacific Food Incorporated. Prior to his career at Century, he was PepsiCo's country head for Malaysia and Singapore, and he has had stints also with Nippon Paint Asia and Procter & Gamble. Let's welcome Mr. Edwin Africa.
Next, she is a mother to 4 children, a fashion designer, a biodynamic farmer, TV host, and key opinion leader in holistic living. She co-founded Holy Carabao Holistic Farms in 2007 from the simple intention to bring home better food to her family. It grew into the first door-to-door organic food delivery in the country and a trusted supplier of organic produce to supermarkets, restaurants, and hotels. Let us all welcome Miss Hindi Weber.
Okay, our next panelist has come from a long way off. He hails from Medellin, Colombia, and he is the current president of Nissan Philippines. He is responsible for developing business strategies to maximize Nissan's overall performance in the Philippines, managing product introductions and expanding the reach of the Nissan brand in the country. Please welcome Mr. Juan Manuel Hoyos.
Our last panelist serves as co-chair of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste and is active in civic organizations where he has shown exemplary leadership as president of the Rotary Club of Makati Paseo de Rojas. He is currently the Chief Supply Chain and Sustainability Officer of Universal Robina Corporation. Please welcome Mr. David Lim. All right, so now we will start our discussion. Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, but Tina, before we start, just 2 words of advice to our panelists. Number one, we have 45 minutes, which seems like a long time, but it goes like nothing. Okay, so we'd like to encourage our panelists to, go straight to the point in responding to questions, but at the same time, let's make this a conversation. Don't wait for us to ask you a question. You want to say something, you want to react, please, just go in right away, okay?
Well, I'm sure they have a lot of thoughts in mind.
Oh, well, I don't doubt that, yeah. Let's start off. Tina, you want to start off with the first question?
Miss Indy, may you start?
I was saying, yes, we do. We have a lot to say.
So can you share us your experience when it comes to your industries? How do you see the problems in the environment as an opportunity to actually work for the environment?
First of all, I'd like to thank the SM group of companies for organizing this event and WWF. I was actually, as a child, I was a member of the World Wildlife Fund. I would go door to door in our different villages and different barangays. I even wrote them to ask if I could be a member, so this is somewhat of a full circle moment for me. And I'm also, I feel kind of out of place, to be honest. I'm a very, very small business owner. My business partner is here, Melanie Go. We're both moms. We like to call ourselves the soil mamas because everything starts with the soil and ends with the soil, in our opinion. And the work that we do in the farm with children and growing food really starts with the whole ecosystem of the soil. And I think that's something that we can apply in every industry, in every business. I'm in the fashion industry as well, and in the food industry, 2 of the biggest polluters. The food industry being the first and the fashion industry next. So, and we realized that we can't do anything without the support system of the soil. So this, for us, is not really a climate emergency. It's really a soil health emergency. And if we focus our efforts there, then it translates across the board.
I want to ask a more personal question to all of you, and I'd like to get responses. How do you feel when you listen to me, the discussion that we're really in a real crisis? That 1.5 centigrade may not be within reach, that we're looking at the situation where in the next couple of years, the situation get really messy. How do you react to that?
first of all, Philippines was number 1 and Colombia was number 4. Second
we're-
of all, there is no small business, but we need big change. So I think I'm not just president of Nissan, but I'm a diver. And I have seen, I'm start diving, you can make the counts, 1996. And I have seen change on the reefs, I have seen change on the fish species, I have seen change all over the place. So this is something that is not just because of the automotive industry, it's just because we need to do it. I have a daughter, 5-year-old. We need to prepare for her to be in the next world, in this world, how we're going to be living if we don't change what we do today. So seeing all of this is just making sure that what we are doing as Nissan makes sense also, okay? We have been doing this from 2000. We were the first EV mass-produced car, the Leaf. So we still have long road to go, but we have to be part of the solution. We are part of the solution, and we are driving the change. So far, we have been able to do many things, but there's a lot of things that we need to change as well. We started in 2000 until 2022, we have reduced 40%. We have a set goal of reduce 40% our emissions, and we have achieved that. But we have to go to 2050, and we want to be zero emission, carbon free, okay, carbon neutrality. For that, we have set goals, milestones, plans, and just we keep working on that one. So hearing what we hear today make us think that if we don't do it together, all of us, then we will not be able to achieve it.
Anybody else? Yes. Raymond.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So like Maribel, I feel very scared, but at the same time hopeful. And when I first started in this advocacy tour trying to green real estate back in 2007, one of my objectives was to scare as many people as possible. And so I'm hopeful today because I see a room full of people who are getting scared. And I think that's what we need. We as businesses need to start getting scared because if we don't have the fear, we're not going to act. And so I think it's very important that we carry the messages of today. Yes, it's scary. Yes, there's a lot to be fearful for, but collective action gives us the hope. And I think the more scared we are, the more hopeful I get because I think that's when action is going to start to happen. So that's how I feel today.
Anybody else? Yes, please.
Yeah, so I guess just want to confirm that in terms of there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of it can be very daunting, right? And all of the data that we see. So we're in the food industry, Century Pacific, and so we see it both from the supply side, where we have to make sure that we do have food security, but at the same time we see it on the end side because every time there's a typhoon, our products, we get all the calls because canned goods are the ones that would really feed our country. So it can be very daunting, but at the same time, I'd like to echo that it is, I'm personally very hopeful because as citizens of the country and as a part of the human society, we can do something. And I'm really, really hopeful that, for example, for our company, we did this, we started about 2015, around that, 2015, 2016. And we've seen that, number one, climate change, sustainability, resilience, they are not against corporate objectives. We've actually seen that it is good for business. And number two is that it can actually energize the entire company. We've seen our people, we've seen our employees really get up and have a lot of ideas. And we use that to actually bring the company forward and make an impact to society.
Yes, Dave.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add that, frankly, I'm quite excited about is that in the Philippines, it's been mentioned several times today that we contribute about 0.3 to 0.33% of the global GHG emissions. If we're being pragmatic about it, we want to focus on where we can make a difference and help all of our fellow Filipinos in the country. And that's really nature-based solutions, climate resiliency, and climate adaptability. And we see it every time a typhoon hits, and really focusing on where we can help there, in my opinion, is something I'm excited that more groups are talking about, and I think where we can really, really make a difference, and quite quickly, to be honest, in our own backyard.
Yeah, so I'm really glad I came to this forum, and I want to thank SM to organize this forum. I think one thing that I share with everybody here is that I'm really fearful for the situation that we have right now, and also hopeful. We started this journey on addressing sustainability when it was not yet fashionable, maybe back in 2016. And people were starting talking about greenhouse gas emissions and stuff like that. And we as an exercise, we just started doing some accounting and figuring out how much greenhouse gas emissions we were emitting. And some of the numbers were really scary when we compare our numbers to industry standard, for example. We need to benchmark. So we managed to benchmark, and just looking under the hood, we have over 30 factories. And we have old factories. And reducing emissions was actually an easy exercise, just if you look closely. Changing the equipment, changing our processes, and the like, actually gave us substantial reduction in energy consumption that contributed to our reduction. Today, we're talking about electricity, solar power, instead of fossil fuel generated electricity. My biggest worry actually is there isn't enough renewable energy supply in the Philippines to serve everybody. The last I looked, right? In fact, I was talking to David before on supplying renewable energy for us. Right today, only 30% of our power is renewable. And by 2040, it's only going to be at most 40%. So, I mean, if you're restricted by those resources, how do we go about in reducing our own carbon footprint? I don't have the answer, but somehow I think policies may have to change, incentives have to be put in, and that's the sort of thing that we have to discuss collaboratively with the government, etc. Right? So, yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I feel very impatient. As I said, I've been at this since I was like 8 or 9 years old with WWF, and it's been 40 years, and we're still talking about the same things, actually. So credit to WWF and other organizations such as Greenpeace. They've been talking about this for over 40 years, and so I'm very impatient.
Takes a while, no?
In about 20 to 30 years, we're going to see the disposability of humankind, and if we don't make drastic change now.
Now, following that thought, Ms. Hindi, we see the impact that you already initiated from your industries, right? But as we have established a while ago, climate change is not something that we feel in our daily routine. So what is the step of your businesses, of your industries, so the public can actually have or, answer to that urgent call that we have a problem?
Yeah, so maybe just to kind of like answer that. So some of the things that we do is partly educational in nature. So we are part of the net plastic neutrality, plastic exchange. Some of our products obviously we use mostly tin cans, which is recyclable in nature already, but we also have plastic packaging. So part of that is like we actually develop programs for beach cleanups, and we basically educate the public that help us and kind of like work with that. So I guess we use the power of our brands, and because we are in consumer goods, that to help educate the public.
Yeah, on our side, so we're in the power generation and distribution business. So the impacts are quite large to our businesses when a typhoon comes through, an earthquake happens, a volcano erupts. A lot of it isn't necessarily on our infrastructure, but it's as a result of some of the climatic effects, right? Trees falling on power lines, transmission lines that knock out our power grid. from people being able to get their power. So I think some things that we're talking about on the corporate side, before I move on to the public side, is we're trying to, in some cases, bury our power lines underground and create, using digital solutions and AI to determine when to trim trees, where to trim trees, so that we don't have to worry about when a typhoon happens, how many people are going to be without power, how many lines are put down. On the social side, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I was very excited about the adaptability side, a nature-based approach. Our group has planted, through the Aboitiz Group and our various foundations, over 11.7 million trees of native trees throughout the Philippines, has recently partnered with the Carbon Sink Management Program and the indigenous communities around where we operate to plant another like 1.3, 1.4 million trees so far. So really, not only planting, but focusing on them growing and helping the communities around, support the farmers with a livelihood, to show the importance of these, why they shouldn't be cut down, and can be an additional income stream for them. So on the nature side, I think that's also very important.
So one of the positive trends that came out of the COVID pandemic is this renewed focus on human health. Everyone is very, very, top of mind thinking about how can I be healthier, more well. And so in trying to push for green buildings, it used to be we were very focused before on talking about green buildings are good for the planet, let's do the right thing. But what we realized, what really started to move the needle is when we realized that green buildings are not just good for the planet, but good for the people who live, work, and play in them. And so when you start to change the focus and say, yes, we care for the planet, but do we also not care about our health, our well-being, then we start to really see that the light bulb moment when businesses start to say, well, if we can be in buildings that are good for the planet and good for our people, then it's really a win-win. Then it becomes very compelling. So that's been our focus, both as a business with NEO and also in my work in the Green Building Council, trying to convince people that green buildings are really the best way forward. We need to green not just our new buildings, but all of our existing buildings.
Yeah, Raymond highlighted something very important, I think. The climate crisis is actually an identity crisis. We've forgotten who we are as human beings, that we are actually interconnected, intertwined, intrinsically natural beings. And to have to prove to someone and to educate the people that a green building is good for them or organic food is good for them is really a testament that we've forgotten really our true nature. And so even in Holy Carabao or in my fashion line, the first thing that we ever do is educate. More like trying to help them remember. And it's not like a business decision that's compartmentalized. Okay, our environmental sustainable program is this. It's not that. It's everything, everything, all the decisions we make, not just for our business, but even in our personal lives, is tied in to how it impacts people and planet. It's not compartmentalized. It's not just, okay, I'm gonna grow organic food, and when I turn around, I'm gonna do something else, right? So everything is intertwined, and that's what I'm hoping that we all get to that level, that it's not just a business decision.
Can I jump in at this point? What feedback are you getting from your customers, from your employees? Is this something that matters to them, makes a difference? Or is it one of those nice to have, but not really all that great? What feedback are you getting, for example, in your case?
So in our case, the feedback is always positive, but I think we have to clear the line that we are not on the feedback of the people who are our early adopters. I think we are on the business of changing mindset. This is the most important big. I'm in the automotive business. We have sold leaves, yes. A lot, not yet. So what we are also doing, we just launched a new product, which is the Kixi Power, which is on an SUV on one of the largest segments. And when we wanted to launch it, we say we can launch it ICE vehicle, which is combustion engine, or we can launch it full e-power, only e-power. And we take the risk, and we decided to launch it just e-power. And the feedback was positive, so positive that we have a waiting list, which is, I apologize for the customers
Nice problem.
now. Nice problem, but now a problem that even we didn't measure the success of the people adopting the new technology. And I think that's the thing that we need to do. We can provide the technology, but then I can spend times with PowerPoints explaining the technology, but it's in the mindset of the people that they say, okay, now that I have the possibility, now I can choose. My power to choose one vehicle from another vehicle, now I have that power, and I know and I test it and I love it, and then they have the positive feedback. I think that's what we want to do.
Anybody else want to comment on that point?
I can jump in. On our side, so on the power side, one thing we're hearing from our customers, it's not everything. It is very important to a lot of customers, but in the Philippines, we are a developing nation where energy security and energy affordability are really critical to a lot of our customers. So it's a balance between the two where we want to attract new investments into the country. They need affordable power. They need power to be there consistently and reliably. So that's another part of the conversation we're hearing. I mean, in a lot of cases, we do have a lot of customers that do want RE. There are a few of us on the stage that we work together. A few people I'm looking out to the audience as well where we work together and very passionate about it. But it is a growing trend. But what we're seeing across the industry that is really critical, what customers want and see is the security and affordability of power.
Same with us with consumer goods, fashion, and food. It's about the price. It's always about the price. And for a small business owner like myself, it's so difficult, really, the burden is on us to prove to them that this is a better product. And it's an investment in your health, an investment in your future. Even spending for a more expensive linen shirt because it consumed less water, didn't use pesticides, and would cost more. I mean, even I struggle with the idea, why would it cost more? Because you trace it back to the supply chain, it's harder to get. You pay your farmers better.
Makes a great gift, you know.
You pay your farmers better. So you're competing with heavy industrialization and commercialization of these consumer goods. So my hope is that it becomes a systemic change, an industry-wide change, so that the burden is not on the grassroots people, on the farmers and the producers.
Just to add, I just want to say thank you to David and Aboitiz Power. So just from a customer's perspective, we partnered with them in 2013 because of their strong commitment to renewable energy. So that was actually not just a nice to have, it was actually the sole reason or one of the driving reasons we actually chose to partner with them. On the real estate side, when we started to do green buildings, I would say that at that time, early on, customers, the tenants weren't demanding it. It was always a nice to have. I would say now it's been a huge shift. I think all of our major tenants are with us because of our deep commitment to sustainability. Not only because it's a nice to have, but because it's essential to them. Most of our large multinational tenants love the fact that they can now tell their principals overseas that we are in a net zero building, and therefore we are now contributing in the Philippines to the net zero goals and plans of their mother company, whether that's in the US or in Europe.
You know, when I was a student, I never thought that zero would be a good mark. Anyway, yes, any other comments?
Yeah, so like maybe I'd answer that in two ways. I do agree that actually for most of, especially in consumer goods, people are really only looking at price predominantly, right? Price and quality. I think that in terms of just being, climate neutral or like, whether our products are, it's good for the planet, that's still not as prevalent among our consumers, right? Where I think most of us as manufacturers it's our job to actually say that it is good for you, maybe on health, maybe on, some other things. So we have to actually drive that. That's the first one. The second one is that what we found is by focusing on climate-related things like reducing water, using renewable energy, we actually could drive costs down. And so we'll pass that to the consumer, and that's hopefully going to actually be better, right? Even if they're not buying it because of the climate thing. But the biggest thing for us as we went through, as we're going through this journey, is our employees. We're really seeing that this is a positive way to actually bring the entire community, our entire employee together, especially among the younger ones. I've been to recruitment sessions where the people now are not asking us about career or how much the salary is going to be. It's more of like, what's your policy on environment, right? And so by having that, I think it is very important for us, for the sustainability of our company as well.
Well, it's not just the young kids, you know, even tech lolos are also, you know, we're okay too, you know. Anyway.
For our apos.
But I have to agree because our generation is actually, we are very, very active when it comes to environmental projects, and the values of the company where we work with, it's also a plus point for us if we want to be part of that company, because we will be working for our future families and we want our family members to be healthy. So we want a sustainable future. So, partner, we have questions from our audience through our QR code a while ago, which we flashed. So, let me throw in the first question for Mr. Rufino to be the world's first Edge Zero Carbon by IFC. How did you start this journey?
Well, I'll try to keep this short. So we got all of our green building certifications, and we were always thinking about what more can we do to push our sustainability for our buildings. And so I'm also involved in the Philippine Green Building Council, and we were piloting our Advancing Net Zero certification program, which is how do you certify a building that is actually net zero. So we volunteered to pilot some of our buildings, and during that process, I'm also a member of the Urban Land Institute. There was a global campaign to get companies, real estate companies, to commit to becoming net zero. So we said, you know what, it's an ambitious goal. We didn't know if we would be able to do it. We said, look, we will commit that by 2030, we will be net zero. That was the goal, is 2030, very ambitious. Let's try and see if we got it. But luckily, because we have strong partners like Aboitiz Power, who supplied renewable energy, we were able to conserve a lot of our energy use. We were able to secure both green building and IFC certification for net zero, and we got all of that last year. So well ahead of our 2030 target, we became net zero last year for NEO.
Way
Okay.
early.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats there, Dave. Next is, this one is a question from Mr. Hoyas. On deliberate climate mitigation action, what are your thoughts on the idea that hybrid cars are what the country needs instead of electric vehicles due to infrastructure concerns and regarding supply concerns? How do you answer that?
Okay, so I think one is not against the other. I think Philippines will need the electric vehicles because that is the global trend. But I agree, on terms today, we don't have the infrastructure, okay? So that's why one of the main things that we are collaborative working with the government is try to, and with the also ecosystem, on try to build that network and try to build that infrastructure. But today, that's why, yes, for sure, e-power or hybrids is what the consumer mostly want because they don't have the range anxiety. The main problem that we have with the EVs now in Philippines is people are afraid of, I don't know where I will charge. But then there's two solutions for that. One, we salute SM and other conglomerates because they're putting charge stations at the buildings, at the condos. That's the first thing because usually someone drives only 50 kilometers per week. The range of the EVs could be from 300 kilometers up to our area, which is 600 kilometers. So that doesn't mean that you don't have to charge every week or every day, but people still are afraid. However, I'm a diver. If I go to Anilao, there is no charging station in Anilao. So then I have a range anxiety. So if I'm driving in Metro Manila, no problem at all. But if I go to Bayo or to Anilao, then I have a problem. So that's why we are trying to build that infrastructure. But on the e-power side, and this is something that we also try to say is, for us, the technology, the e-power, is that transition, that pathway to go to the EVs, because this is, for instance, in the 90s, when you have an automatic transmission, people say, no, I love to drive my manual transmission. But once they drive the automatic transmission, no one goes back. No one goes back. So this is also with the e-Power. Once you drive because it's a more electric driven, our car, then we know that that's the pathway. We know that once they drive that, they will never go back because they have that feeling. When you're driving an ICE vehicle, you have that sensation of then when you drive an electric car, you have the power instantly. So there's benefit for the customer. So it's not just because of price. It's because people understand benefits. Silent. Imagine North EDSA silent. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And clean. Most beautiful. So those things should happen, will happen. So that's once people try the technologies, they will go. So answer your question, sorry for the long answer, is yes, I think both EVs, but as a transition period, I think hybrids or e-Power are the solution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hoyes. But you raised the point that I want to toss to everybody again. As you pointed out, to really push EVs, you need to build the infrastructure. Now, the car companies can't build the infrastructure by themselves. To give you another more simpler example, so many of the companies here have tree planting programs, right? Have you tried supplying yourselves, getting the supplies of native trees and plants? You're very lucky, David, because you got a lot, but so many other people, individuals and companies, when they try to buy native trees and plants, it's so hard. Why? Because there's no supply chain. Oh, so how can you really push planting native trees and plants when it's so hard and expensive to buy native trees and plants? I know this because I'm pushing a program like that, and it's so hard to find the supply. So how do you build that kind of ecosystem? Because you need ecosystems, supply chains, in order to address these issues that you are discussing right now. David?
Well, I can address from our foundation's perspective. So at the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation's 1-2-3 program, we have a partnership with a lot of farmers throughout the Philippines, primarily Visayas, expanding to Luzon. However, one thing that we're doing right now to build this supply chain to address the challenge that you're bringing up, which is we're seeing the same thing, is we're leveraging our microfinance arm, where we partner with over 650,000 women throughout the country and trying to find ways that we can get them to partner and help us with the seedlings, partner with the local schools that we work with to teach the students about growing the trees. And it's also a way for them to earn an income as well. But it's really just branching out and building the education around it and working with people you wouldn't normally have thought to work with and building up those supply chains. So that's one way we've been addressing it. It's not the only way. It's really starting up, but it's really working with the partner farmers and finding a way for them to find other sources of income after just selling the tree, growing it, selling the fruit-bearing native trees, and so forth.
Any other feedback on that point?
Maybe I will say, because I think when I see around, there is many people who are working with the same purpose. It's just that we have to connect more and work more on trying to make those things. We have a Blue Initiative, that is Blue Switch. Philippines is one of the first countries after Japan, and the objective is to build that around all the stakeholders, government, NGOs, people who are really working on change. So what we want to do, objective, is yes, that there is more electrification out there. So it goes from the infrastructure, goes from government policy, goes from also NGOs, because we want to have presence on charging stations that are sustainable, also near the beaches, all of those things. So we need to work together more and more and more.
Imagine a charging station in Boracay. Anyway, so
Yeah.
yes, sir.
So I think, like anything else, we need to address sustaining the sustainability, right? A lot of things that we do nowadays are based on donations and as such, and I don't think those are really sustainable, right? So you need to take a look at the value chain and see how we can make this sustainable. If, for example, the trees that we're planting, we can actually sell maybe carbon credits, maybe that money can be used to fund these things. And I'm looking at plastics also in the same way, right? And when we start talking about diverting plastics, we talk about maybe selling maybe the energy that's produced from diverting these plastic waste, use that to pay for the waste plastic that we need to collect, right? In a similar manner, we can do the same thing for the trees that you're talking about. But I think we need to change that mindset in such a way that there is value to what we do. If we don't do that, I think it's going to be left at a donation thing, a one-time thing, a CSR project, to make it sustainable. Yeah.
Let's make the nurseries make money. Okay, yeah, yes.
I'm very averse to the commodification of any natural resource, trees, of water, which we've already done, right? We're going to be seeing the commodification of air. Like you said, even just like looking for the supply chain of the native trees. So I'm hoping more of an integration into the educational system. Maybe it's so lacking. We work with a lot of students in our farm. We do field trips and farm tours. And the lack of knowledge about the simplest things, our animals, the microbes, the trees, the plants, herbal remedies, things like that were natural to us, that was part of life. It's part of being Filipino, and it's gone. We've just had this Western style of education that's pretty much stripped us of this knowledge. And I think if we are able to integrate that once again into the educational system and raise children who are aware inherently of this, then we will solve so many things.
Tina, Wendy, I have to testify to that. I grew up in LaSalle, Taft, thinking that the acacias on Taft Avenue were native trees. Do you know that acacias are not native? We love bougainvilleas, right? But bougainvilleas are not native. They come from your continent.
I know. Like cacao.
If you do a quiz contest among children today, many of them will flunk the test of asking what are native trees and what are not native trees. So one of our first problems is knowledge, awareness, and so I really, go along strongly with that. Yes, Tina.
I've been hearing consistent experiences when it comes to collaboration, partnership. Now, how can you strengthen that call that for us to be able to work for that one goal, we have to collaborate with other private agencies and also with the government? How can you strengthen that call in your businesses?
I think I will say not only, so maybe it's not mentioned strengthened, but also accelerate, because I think there is a key word, because we have also here that there is already a lot of plans, already a lot of people working. We just heard the president, and we salute that. He announced that we will also have reduction on the tariff on the electric vehicles. That things help. So there is a lot of things, a lot of people working together already. But the speed, so for instance, there is the VIDA law on electrification. But then it's on how we execute the law, the place that people will have. So I will say that we need to help on that collaboration, but also it's in our job to drive the change, to put a little more speed on all the things that is happening. Sometimes it's not us, we cannot control, but we can help. We can lend knowledge, because sometimes we also try to invent the wheel when also somewhere else is already working very well on that one. So as a global company, we are always willing to work, lend knowledge, work collaborative, but also try to drive the change and acceleration.
We're down to our last 2 minutes, so please, anybody wants to come
I
in?
just wanted to add that I think the alliance that SM is leading today is a fantastic way for us to deepen that partnership and collaboration, because many of us are from different industries and we have different priorities, different objectives, but I think coming together in a group and everyone sharing what are they doing, what resources they have, how they can help, I think that would unlock a lot of value. So I think it's great if we can all get together within a framework of this alliance to really talk about how we can all contribute and collaborate to address climate change.
Any last words?
I mean, like I would completely support that. I think SM, what you guys have been doing, trying to build everybody, bring everybody together, and to answer that question, really, I think number one, as a private sector, building the climate change, sustainability into your business plan, and then basically, I think the good thing with the Philippines, I've worked in many other countries, but I think the one thing that's good in the Philippines is that there is a strong private alliance and private-public sector working together. And we just need to tap into that, right? And then the second one is that, at least for one of the things we're seeing is that in the society that we're working in, we have like 6 factories around the country. We work with many different societies. Just making a difference there can also make a difference everywhere. You need to start somewhere.
Indy, is this fast enough for you?
For me, I think there's a bit of a sacrifice we all need to make in terms of how we view profit. I think one of the speakers mentioned something to this effect. The question that we always ask is, who's going to profit from this and who's going to suffer? And if your answer to the who's going to profit is just yourself and who's going to suffer is everybody else or all of us actually, then I think we need a bit of tweaking there. But yeah, the power matrix that has existed since the Industrial Revolution has brought us to this point, and that's one of just looking at profit in a very confined way. So I feel it's time that we share that profit a little bit more, otherwise we all suffer.
We just got some questions here from the floor. Do we still have time? Can we extend just one more question? Is it okay?
Okay. Go ahead, partner. Okay, so we have 2 more questions or 3 questions more. So what are your thoughts on greenwashing becoming an emerging concept as we put forward climate action? Greenwashing.
Yeah, it sounds like laundry.
Yeah, I can try and take that. So yeah, greenwashing is a big concern. So for those who are not familiar, greenwashing is when companies and individuals and organizations try to use sustainability as a marketing tool where it's more talk and not actually delivering on the action, right? So very big problem. This is huge, especially globally. A lot of large companies making a lot of big claims, but not really substantiating that. So I think it's a major issue. I think it's something we need to be aware of, that when we talk about sustainability, this is not marketing, this is not PR, this is not sales, trying to just pitch that we're doing good. You really need to be able to back up whatever you claim with very solid, Chico talked about his data. You need data. You need to measure your data and be able to back your claim. Otherwise, you just saying that you're green and sustainable doesn't mean anything. You need to demonstrate that your organization is truly committed and demonstrate that with the data. And so I think that's a very, very important way to counteract greenwashing, is to make sure that we measure everything we're doing. In the real estate sector, we're trying to promote green building certification because, as we all know, every developer and owner is going to say, my building is green. Of course it is. Our next question is, okay, can someone else other than yourself certify and give credibility that your building is green? So we're pushing green building certification as a way to demonstrate to the public that if you're saying your building is green, someone has actually checked, measured your data, looked at your data, looked at what you're doing, and actually can say, yes, we can vouch that this building is in fact green. So I think green building certification for our industry, we believe, is the #1 weapon against greenwashing.
Okay. Let's end, Tina, on this final question, and let's get quick answers from those who want to give response. Can you give an example of a way that you've collaborated with other members of the private sector or with government to further your environmental impact? Anybody want to take that one?
Okay, so I'll use close example with Raymond here and with the SM group. Through Raymond's push in 2013 to go renewable, it really gave our group the confidence that there is a demand, there is a shift towards RE that gave us the confidence to commit to our 2030 goals of going 50-50 renewable and conventional power. And on the SM side, the partnership of selecting green energy resulted in the development of a very large solar farm in the Philippines, just from their commitment alone for their needs. So allows commitments from different private sector to actually get new RE on the ground. I think is one perfect way to describe that, right? It's incremental investment into these power plants.
Yes.
Also, for instance, with IVIPA and the VIDA law, because we are working with the government, but there's the tax incentives, but something that is very powerful is not necessarily the non-fiscal incentives, like for instance, the color coding. Color coding is very powerful for the early adoption of the EV vehicles, and now it's also in place. People can, for instance, I came in a Leaf today, which it was before color coding, not anymore. So that's also ways that we can work collaborative to find those solutions. SM also, they have charging infrastructure, but even maybe can have also parking space, prioritizing parking space for EV owners, also in buildings, also prioritizing EV owners. Those kind of things that is no fiscal incentives that also create kind of status or how I do something else for the people who are willing to make a change. Those kind of things are also what we are trying to look for collaboration.
Any final words? Okay. Well then, can we please give our panelists a big hand?
Very, very supercharged discussion indeed. Again, thank you very much for that knowledge that you have shared with us today. And a big hand again for our panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.